Hey there, everybody. So, you know how sometimes we feel like something is holding us back?
Yeah,
It's like there are these invisible walls in our minds.
invisible walls.
Well, today we're going deep into a fascinating paper that might just give us the keys to break through those walls.
Really?
It's called Overcoming Limiting Beliefs, A Path to Personal Transformation by Mohamed Bazir. And let me tell you, it is packed with insights.
I'm intrigued.
So, first things first, where do these sneaky beliefs even come from? The paper points to four major origins.
Okay.
And guess what? The first one takes us all the way back to childhood.
Child, huh?
It's amazing how much those early messages from parents, teachers, other kids can shape us.
It's true.
It's like they create this blueprint in our minds that we carry around for years. Sometimes that blueprint includes some faulty wiring.
Culty wiring, I like that.
Right. Imagine a kid who's constantly told they're not good at math.
Oh, yeah.
That can easily turn into a fear of anything related to numbers later in life.
I see that. And it's not just the words, right?
Exactly.
It's the whole vibe. Like if a child grows up seeing their parents always stressed about money, they might unconsciously develop a belief that financial success is just, well, out of reach.
That makes a lot of sense.
So those early experiences, they really set the stage, don't they?
It's a bit unnerving, but the good news is awareness is the first step to change.
Absolutely.
If we can see how those beliefs formed, we can start to question them.
Question everything.
Right. The paper also talks about trauma and failure as origins of these beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense. If you go through something really tough, it's easy to develop some pretty negative beliefs about yourself or the world.
Our brains are wired to protect us, right?
I guess so.
So after a painful experience, they try to keep us safe by saying, hey, let's just avoid that situation altogether, even if it means limiting ourselves.
Like a survival mechanism gone wrong.
Sometimes.
Our brain's trying to protect us, but end up holding us
That's a
back.
good way to put it.
Then there's the influence of culture. Like all those messages we get about who we should be and what we should be able to do.
Ah, the shoulds. Those are sneaky.
They really are. Think about gender roles, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So many limiting beliefs stem from those, don't you think?
Totally.
Like men feeling that they can't show emotion, or women feeling pressured to be agreeable all the time.
It boxes people in.
And then, of course, there's the comparison trap,
The comparison trap.
which, let's be real, is almost impossible to avoid in today's world.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere. We're bombarded with images of, like, perfect lives.
Yeah, and that makes it so easy to fall into the I'm not enough trap.
Right.
The research paper actually ties this back to something called Festinger's theory of social comparison.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So basically, we're always measuring ourselves against others, which is fine to a certain extent,
I get that.
but it can get out of hand. You start comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
It can make anyone feel inadequate.
It really can.
Social media definitely makes it worse.
Oh, yeah. Social media takes the comparison game to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Like.
It's like everyone's presenting this curated, perfect version of themselves, and then we compare ourselves to that. It's no wonder we end up feeling like we're falling short.
So we've got childhood messages, trauma, cultural pressures, and then the constant comparing. It's like we're surrounded by these belief-forming machines.
And here's the thing. These beliefs, they often operate beneath the surface. Like, we don't even realize they're there.
That's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like having this invisible script running in the background, influencing our thoughts and actions.
An invisible script.
And we're just going along with it, totally unaware.
So how do these beliefs actually work in our minds? What's the mechanism?
Okay, great question. The paper dives into this really interesting concept called cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions.
Yeah, think of them as thinking traps that our minds fall into. They're like these skewed lenses that distort how we see reality.
Okay, I need an example. Give me an example of one of these thinking traps.
Sure. One that a lot of people struggle with is called catastrophizing. It's when we take a small setback and blow it way out of proportion, imagining the worst possible outcome.
Oh, I totally do that.
Right.
Like if I make a mistake at work, I immediately jump to, oh no, I'm going to get fired.
Exactly. It's like your brain is creating this drama out of thin air.
And those catastrophic thoughts, they can really spiral, can't
Oh,
they?
yeah. They can trigger all sorts of negative emotions, anxiety, fear, even despair.
The paper also mentioned overgeneralization as one of these distortions.
Oh, yeah. Overgeneralization. That's a big one.
Can you break that down for me?
It's when we take one isolated event and turn it into a sweeping rule about ourselves or the world. Like, let's say you have a couple of bad dates.
Oh, no.
And then you think, see, I'm just not meant to find love. It never works out for me.
Ouch, that one hit close to home.
Right. It's so easy to fall into that trap, especially when we're feeling down or insecure.
So catastrophizing, overgeneralization. Are there any other sneaky thought patterns we should be on the lookout for?
Oh, absolutely. There's one called confirmation bias, which is our tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are negative.
So it's like we're cherry-picking the evidence to support our own negative stories.
Exactly.
That's wild.
And it keeps us stuck in these echo chambers of our own limiting beliefs.
This is starting to make me realize how much power our thoughts have.
It's really incredible.
If we're constantly filtering our experiences through these distorted lenses,
Yeah.
it's no wonder we end up feeling limited and stuck.
The paper also brings up the impact of our mindset on this whole belief system.
Oh, right.
Specifically, the work of Carol Dweck on fixed versus growth mindsets.
I've heard of those.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about which one you tend to have?
Not really.
Well, maybe it'll come up as we dig deeper.
Okay, let's do it.
So a fixed mindset is the belief that our abilities are pretty much set in stone. Like this is who I am and I can't really change.
I see.
A growth mindset, on the other hand, is the belief that our abilities can be developed through effort and learning.
Effort and learning.
Exactly. So with a growth mindset, challenges are seen as opportunities to grow, and setbacks are just, well, part of the learning process.
That sounds so much more freeing.
It really is.
Do you think most people have one or the other?
I think we all have a bit of both, honestly.
Okay.
It's like a spectrum. But being aware of these mindsets is a great starting point.
So we've got these cognitive distortions, these mindsets at play. It does sound like a recipe for feeling trapped.
Yeah, it can be tough.
But the good news is there are ways to break free.
Absolutely.
The research paper outlines some really practical strategies for overcoming limiting beliefs.
That's what we're here for.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree to unpack those.
Let's do it.
Mm.
I'm excited to share these. They can be real game changers.
Awesome. I'm all ears.
The first step, and this is a big one, is identifying those limiting beliefs that are lurking beneath the surface.
Okay, how do we do that? How do we bring those subconscious beliefs into our conscious awareness?
Well, journaling is a really powerful tool.
Journaling.
Yeah, it's like just taking some time to write down your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Just let it flow.
Exactly. It's amazing what comes up when you just start writing. You might start to notice some recurring themes, negative thoughts, fears, doubts that keep popping up.
Those are like clues to the underlying beliefs.
They are. It's like detective work for your own mind.
The paper also suggests asking ourselves specific questions to help uncover these beliefs.
Oh, yeah. Questions can be so helpful.
Like what?
Well, one of my favorites is, what's the story I'm telling myself about this situation?
The story I'm telling myself.
Yeah, like what's the narrative that's driving my beliefs?
I like that.
It helps us unpack those hidden assumptions.
That's really cool.
Right. Another good one is, if I didn't believe this limiting belief, what would be possible for me?
Okay.
That one can help us see beyond those self-imposed limitations.
Okay, so we've identified those sneaky limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
What happens next? What do we do with them?
So once we've identified a belief, it's time to challenge its validity.
Challenge it.
Yeah, put it on trial.
Yeah.
The research paper calls this cognitive restructuring, which sounds fancy, but it's really about putting those beliefs under a microscope and seeing if they hold up.
So we're like putting those beliefs in the hot seat.
Exactly. We're gathering evidence, examining the facts, and asking ourselves, is this belief really true? Or is it based on like distorted thinking or old information?
We're looking for evidence that contradicts the limiting belief.
Exactly. And one technique for challenging beliefs is called reframing.
Reframing.
It's a powerful one. The paper suggests asking yourself, how would I advise a friend who told me the same limiting belief?
Oh, that's a good one.
Isn't it? We're often so much kinder to others than we are to ourselves. It's true.
So by taking on that outside perspective, we can see the flaws in the belief more clearly and offer more supportive and empowering alternatives.
I love that. So instead of saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I might ask, what would I say to a friend who felt this way?
Exactly.
And the answer would probably be something like, you are amazing. You have so much to offer. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, it's about shifting from that negative, limiting perspective to a more positive and expansive one. And the more you practice reframing, the more you start to internalize those new, empowering beliefs.
This is giving me so much hope.
That's great.
It's like we really do have the power to rewrite the narratives that have been holding us back for so long.
We absolutely do.
It's not just about challenging the negative, though, right?
Yeah,
It's also about cultivating the positive.
you've got it.
And that's where things like affirmations and visualization come in.
Exactly. These tools can be incredibly powerful.
I've heard a lot about affirmations, but I'll be honest, sometimes they feel a bit cheesy to me. I hear that. The key is to find affirmations that resonate with you and feel authentic. And it's not just about repeating the words, right? It's about embodying the feeling behind the affirmation.
So instead of just saying, I am confident, I might close my eyes and visualize myself feeling confident in a specific situation.
Exactly. And the more we practice visualization, the more we create neural pathways in our brains that actually support those new beliefs. It's incredible.
We've identified those limiting beliefs, we've challenged them, and we started reframing them with more empowering alternative. What's next in this journey? What's the next big step?
Okay, so the next step is crucial. It's all about taking action.
Action.
We can identify and challenge those beliefs all day long, but if we don't actually change our behavior, nothing will really shift.
So we have to walk the walk.
Exactly. We have to put those new beliefs into practice in the real world.
I see that.
And it doesn't have to be some huge dramatic action either.
Oh, good.
It's about taking small, consistent steps that move you in the direction of your goals.
So, like if I have a limiting belief about public speaking, a small step might be volunteering to give a short presentation at work or joining a Toastmasters group or something like that.
There you go. And the more action you take, the more evidence you build to support those new positive beliefs. It's a beautiful cycle.
It's interesting that the paper also emphasizes the importance of social support in this process.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Why is that so crucial, do you think?
Well, we humans are social creatures by nature.
That's true.
And having a supportive network can make a huge difference in our ability to overcome challenges of all kinds.
It's like having a cheerleading squad for our personal growth.
I love that analogy.
Right.
When we share our journey with others, we create accountability, we receive encouragement, and we get to gain new perspectives.
Makes sense. It's especially helpful when those old limiting beliefs start to creep back in, you know. Having someone to remind us of our strengths and our progress can make all the difference.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about receiving support either, it's about giving support too.
Giving support.
When we help others overcome their challenges, we actually reinforce our own belief in the possibility of change. It's a two-way street.
So it's like we're all in this together, supporting each other on this path of growth and transformation.
Exactly. And the research actually shows that social support is one of the key factors in successful behavior change.
That's cool.
We're wired for connection. Sharing our journey with others can make it more enjoyable and more sustainable.
So as we move forward on this journey of overcoming these limiting beliefs, it's so important to surround ourselves with people who believe in us and support our growth.
Absolutely. People who lift us up and cheer us on. And remember, all these strategies, they're not isolated techniques. They work together to create lasting change.
It's like weaving a new tapestry, right?
And new tapestry, I like that.
Of beliefs, thoughts, and behaviors that support our well-being and empower us to live our fullest lives.
Exactly.
This has been so insightful.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's like we've gone from feeling trapped by these limiting beliefs to having a whole toolkit of strategies to break free. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
What's been your biggest takeaway so far? What's really resonating with you?
I think for me, it's that reminder that we have way more control over our thoughts and beliefs than we often give ourselves credit for.
It's so easy to feel like we're just victims of our past or our circumstances.
But the truth is, we have a choice. We can choose to believe those old stories, or we can choose to rewrite them.
That's powerful. It makes me curious about how these strategies are used by professionals,
Yeah.
Like the paper mentioned life coaching and therapy. How do those fields approach limiting beliefs?
Well, life coaches often use something called reflective questioning.
Reflective questioning.
Yeah, it's like guiding their clients towards self-discovery by asking really thought-provoking questions.
Look, give me an example.
They might ask something like, what would you be capable of achieving if you didn't hold on to that belief?
Wow, that's deep.
Isn't it? Or they might ask, what advice would you give to a friend who was struggling with this same belief?
That's so smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're often so much wiser when we're giving advice to others.
Exactly. It's like we can see the situation more objectively when it's not our own.
So it's like the coach is holding up a mirror and helping their clients see their own potential reflected back at them.
I love that analogy. It's so true.
And what about therapy? What approaches are helpful for addressing limiting beliefs?
Oh, there are so many.
Really?
But one that's particularly effective is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short.
I've heard of CBT.
Yeah, it's super popular, and for good reason.
Remind me, how does that work?
Well, CBT focuses on identifying and challenging negative thought patterns
Okay.
and replacing them with more helpful ones.
It's like retraining our brains to think more positively.
Exactly.
Cool.
So a therapist who uses CBT might work with a client to help them track their thoughts, help them notice those cognitive distortions we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
and then practice techniques like reframing.
So it's like a combination of awareness and action.
You got it.
That makes sense.
The paper also talked about acceptance and commitment therapy.
ACT.
Yeah, ACT.
I haven't heard as much about that one.
It's a bit different from CBT.
How so?
Well, while CBT focuses on changing our thoughts, ACT focuses more on accepting them.
Accepting them.
Yeah.
Even the negative ones.
Even the negative ones.
Interesting.
It's about acknowledging those thoughts and feelings without letting them control our behavior.
So it's not about ignoring them or pretending they're not there.
No, not at all. It's about learning to observe them without judgment and choosing not to let them dictate our actions.
So we're still aware of them, but we're not letting them call the shots.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is.
And it sounds like it could be really helpful for people who struggle with overthinking or getting caught up in those negative thought spirals.
It can be incredibly freeing.
This is all so fascinating. It seems like there are so many different paths to overcoming these limiting beliefs.
There are.
And it's about finding the approach that resonates with you, right?
Absolutely.
What works for one person might not work for another.
It's all about finding what fits your unique needs and personality. And remember, it's a journey. It's not about reaching some perfect destination.
You're right, it's a process.
It's about learning and growing along the way and being patient with yourself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
what's the one message you want to leave our listeners with today? What's the most important thing you hope they remember?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we really do have the power to choose our beliefs.
We have the power.
And that choice allows us to create a reality that aligns with our truest self.
Our truest selves. That's beautiful.
It is. And the amazing thing is that this work doesn't just benefit us as individuals.
It doesn't.
It can actually have a ripple effect on the world around us.
You mean like on other people?
Exactly. When we break free from our own limitations, it can inspire others to do the same. It's contagious in a good way.
So this isn't just about self-improvement. It's about making a positive impact on the world.
I think so. It's about creating a more expansive and fulfilling reality for everyone.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into limiting beliefs, what's the one thing you hope people take away from today's conversation?
I hope they remember that they are not their limiting beliefs.
We are not our limiting beliefs.
And that they have the power within themselves to create real and lasting change.
That's such an empowering message. And I think it's the perfect note to end on. So to our listeners, think about it. What's one limiting belief you're ready to challenge? What's one small step you can take this week to move closer to the life you truly desire? Remember, even the smallest action can create a powerful shift. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.